but his passion for serving people, his passion for igniting a fire around the Constitution led him in 2010 to be elected to the United States Senate, and perhaps next year as the President of the United States. Please help me welcome Senator Rand Paul.
Senator Paul, Caleb from Rock Hill wants to know your thoughts on the role, if any, of the federal government in education.
The Republican Party in the days of Reagan, and I was at the very first, when he ran in '76, I was there at the National Convention as a 13-year-old. 1980, Reagan wins, and it becomes part of the platform that we don't see a federal role. We were for eliminating the newly created Department of Education. I still am.
So, once you're elected president, thinking about the foreign policy footprint, how would you deal with ISIS and other terrorist organizations?
The first thing I do is quit arming them. I think we've made some mistakes, frankly. I think that if you want to look at one general rule of something that's happened in the Middle East that seems to repeat itself, that maybe we should learn from, is that when we've toppled secular dictators, we've gotten chaos and the rise of radical Islam, and we've been less safe. But that goes along with Republican wars as well as Democrat wars. We toppled Saddam Hussein, we're still suffering from that. Look at it, we spent $1 trillion in the Iraq War, nearly 5,000 of our young men and women died over there, and who's Iraq's best ally and their best friend now? Iran. Who's their second best friend? Russia. So after 5,000 of our young men and women liberating them, what ungrateful, I can't use the word on the stage, what ungrateful people, ungrateful people that they would then choose Iran. Iran's stronger now. Iran used to be somewhat counterbalanced by Iraq. It's the same way with Libya. Hillary Clinton wanted to go to war in Libya. That's why if you think there's going to be a Democrat for you, it's not Hillary Clinton. She's the same as the other side. But she started the war, or encouraged the war in Libya. We toppled Gaddafi, we got chaos. Now a third of Libya pledges allegiance to ISIS. So I think the first thing, if you don't want ISIS to be strong, we shouldn't send weapons to the same side of the war. So in the Syrian civil war, you had Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra, and ISIS. For a while, it was hard to tell which was which. They were kind of all together, but we knew there was radical Islamists. We also knew they were the best fighters. But we insisted on pouring tons and tons. In 2013, we put 600 tons of weapons into Syria, and it was us, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar. Some of those weapons from Qatar and Saudi Arabia, I think, went directly to ISIS. I don't think we intentionally gave weapons to ISIS, but I think they wound up in the hands of ISIS. And think about what we're doing now. We spent $250 million training 60 fighters. $4 million a fighter. And I don't know who the genius is. Let's just say it might be President Obama. He sent 4 of them. Who sends 4 people to war? He sent 4 of them after training them, $4 million a piece, and he gave them $10 million worth of equipment. He sent 4 of them into battle. They were captured in 10 minutes. Now, we've got 50 U.S. troops that are going in. That's what he's done the last week. Who goes to war with 50 people? I say you either go to war or you don't go to war, but you don't go in an underwhelming fashion. If you go to war, you go in an overwhelming fashion.
When you think about all the college graduates to be in the audience and some who've already graduated from college, one of the most important parts of the American dream is finding a job. I'm not sure that the government creates jobs. I'd actually think that we don't create jobs. But what would you do as President of the United States to help facilitate job creation in the nation?
I think you've hit the nail on the head. First, we have to decide where jobs are created. If you think government creates jobs, give government more money. If you think the private sector creates the jobs, leave more money in the private sector. I don't think there's any question that the private sector creates the jobs. This is one of the frustrating things in Washington, though. If you talk to all the wonks, the policy wonks, and the tax people in charge of all the committees, the people who've been there a decade or two, they are not one of them talking about cutting your taxes. That means leaving more in the private sector. They're all talking about revenue neutral tax reform, which is a bunch of fancy words for meaning half of you will pay more, half of you will pay less, and the net effect on the economy is zero. See, I want more money left in South Carolina. If my tax cut doesn't leave more money, I'll cut it again because I want more money left in the private sector. And I think we could have an enormous boom if we did that. I want a tax rate 14.5% or lower, but one single rate for everything. Business, individuals, you fill out your tax return on one card, and a lot more money stays in South Carolina.
Excellent. How would you, as the next President of the United States, bring America together so that we can see the next great American century?
On the things that I've done in Washington, though, I think I've proven that regardless of party, I will work with the President on criminal justice reform. I've also worked with Ron Wyden on privacy. He and I don't agree on much of the economic liberties side, but on the civil liberties side and the Fourth Amendment, we're very much together. And when I've opposed things, I honestly do oppose giving more power to the President, not because of this President. I mean, I would honestly oppose giving myself the same power or giving any Republican the power, because one of the biggest problems we have is so much power has gravitated to the presidency. Presidency is like 1,000 times more powerful than Congress, and they're supposed to be equal. And so I think I'm an honest, I am very much a believer in ideas of freedom and limited government, but I'm not so much a partisan that if you have a great idea and I agree with you and you're a Democrat, that I can't work with you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.